This episode of the FriedEggs Podcast is brought to you by Temp Drop. Did you know your basal body temperature can help confirm ovulation, tell you where you are at in your cycle, and can even be one of the earliest signs of pregnancy? The annoying part? Actually remembering to track it. The traditional way means taking your temperature with an oral thermometer first thing every morning, at the same time, before you even get out of bed. That's why we love Temp Drop. It's a wearable thermometer that tracks your temperature for you, so you don't have to sacrifice sleep for accurate data. It syncs everything to the app and charts it automatically, making the whole process so much easier. Try it out for yourself and get 10% off with code AFFriedEggs.
I'm looking for solid ground. Not sure if I'll find it.
Welcome back to the FriedEggs Podcast. This is our final recording of the summer. I mean, this will be a 2-part episode, but this is our farewell for a couple of weeks because, Amy, where are you going?
I am going on a European adventure.
A voyage.
A voyage. Oh, it's actually kind of a voyage.
It is,
because
kind of.
I'm going to the northern lands. Yes, I'm going on a voyage, an adventure, a what do they call it when you go on like a trip to like find your center?
Yeah.
What is that called? Like an Eat, Pray, Love style.
Yeah, you're going on your little like Odyssey, Eat, Pray, Love experience.
Odyssey. Yeah. Yeah. I guess Eat, Pray, Love's not quite right since Nemo will be with me for
And you're
quite
not like
a
quitting
bit.
your job and leaving
Yeah.
everything behind.
That's true. I am coming back to this
Yes.
same location when I'm done, and hopefully I will have I'll be a bit lighter, but I'm not really expecting some major,
Epiphany.
epiphanies, to hit me. It's more that I'm taking a work sabbatical, but also Katie has some work to be doing.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
I forgot about
I already
it.
forgot.
I forgot. While Amy is on her sabbatical and while we're taking a couple weeks away from the podcast, and we'll get to that. So hang with us through this episode because we have a lot of updates and where things are going. The podcast is not going anywhere. We're just taking a couple of weeks off while Amy travels. And then I am going to be refocusing on writing, which I'm very excited about. I have bitten off more than I can chew throughout the last 2 years, thinking that I can finish my book while also working full time and parenting and doing this podcast. And it has just not, it's taken a backseat. So I've decided that I'm going to use the next few weeks to be very diligent and not watch TV at night and instead go to my office and work on the book. But yeah, so it should be a really sweet fall, like end of summer, fall. I'm excited to challenge myself, which I want to talk about challenges because we have some news that we're going to wait to share until October because there are a couple of things that need to fall into place first. But we have some exciting news that we want to share from both of our ends about just life transitions and next steps with fertility treatments and all of that. But in the meantime, Amy has been doing this sort of like reclamation journey of her own body, which has been really inspiring to watch because I think, as we've all followed along with all of the surgeries and all of the different protocols and procedures with trying to figure out Asherman's and you carrying and then transitioning into surrogacy. And, it's kind of always just been like one procedure on top of the next. And you've taken a break and you're going to be traveling, but you're also like taking a physical break and have been for the last couple of months. And so I want you to share about that because I think it's one of those things where like it's easy when you're in the thick of IVF and fertility treatments, especially when you're doing back-to-back procedures or when things are not going as you planned, like they're not successful with you're not getting the numbers that you want, or your transfers aren't working, or you keep like having cysts or getting like an endo diagnosis, or your periods are irregular, or all of these different things. And so it can feel like you just dissociate and check out physically as you just put your body through another procedure again and again and again. And so I think a lot of people will be interested to hear how this like pause has been for you, but not even just like a pause from treatment, but really a getting like in touch with your body again, getting embodied again, and investing in yourself physically in a way that is not about trying to get pregnant.
Yeah. There's a lot. It's a lot in there. And I'm excited to hear you talk about this too and weigh in, because I think you'll have also a very good and unique perspective here. But I guess just to reiterate that point where I'm coming from, let me take you down a little tiny tangent.
Please.
Okay. So I was chatting with an old girlfriend yesterday. We had a call, and something that's been so great about the podcast is it has brought in a lot of people from like my older life, or that's not the right way to say it, but like old friends who I haven't maybe talked to in a long time, but care a lot about. People have reached out to talk about their experiences, ask for advice here and there, or doctor recommendations. And so this girlfriend I was talking to yesterday is going through her own journey, and I didn't know. She's not sharing broadly. Of course, I'm putting a lot out there.
She knows a lot about you. You don't know a lot about her.
Yeah. And it's like, I want to know what's going on with people, if I can be helpful and supportive. But it is like, oh, okay, it's touching somebody, and it's like helping in some way. But the point is that she was telling me about her long journey, and she has pretty severe fibroids and has gone through a couple failed transfers and had fibroid surgery, which I didn't know much about. I have one girlfriend who went through it, and it's very, very extensive. And like the recovery is very extensive. Like we're talking like 6+ months of recovery. Sounds a bit more akin to like a C-section, where you're like cutting into the muscle wall, and you lose like all of your abdominal strength. And it sounded like my endo surgery on crack, like where I was like, I couldn't get out of bed for the first several days, and we were lamenting about the same kind of thing. Like our husbands needed to like literally help us on and off the toilet, because like you had no muscle strength in your body, and like couldn't even move over in the bed. But she was telling me about how she's gearing up for an egg retrieval shortly, because that's what you can do, egg retrievals while recovering. It'll be a while before she can try a transfer. But she was gearing up for an egg retrieval, and I was like, wow, that's so soon. I said this to her, right? And she was like, yeah, but I just need to be doing something. Like I need to know what my next thing is. And it was like I was right back in there. And as we chatted, the last thing I said, the last part of the chat was like, I'm not at the end of my road either, but this part won't last forever. And in the middle of it, you do feel like it's never ending. And it's literally your full focus. And it's like your second full-time job, but it's the more important one. And like, I couldn't see beyond what was my next thing, what was my next productive step that I could take. And I think that sometimes that's what it takes to keep going and to like iterate on the journey and find the next thing. And I gotta believe that a lot of us feel that way. Like, I think it's probably it's probably more universal than we talk about. That like, from the outsider perspective, some people would be like, wow, like you gotta stop, But when we're in it, you're just like, you just can't, like, it's like this, like the momentum is too strong, and then stopping feels like death almost. It feels like the death of a dream, a failure. Like I can't imagine it. And again, it's just my experience. I know other experiences may be like, I just could never see, like other people will take breaks, and I just like could never do that. So I might not be the norm, but that was very hard for me to take breaks. It was sort of like I had to be forced to take a break and forced to like take a breather and think outside of my immediate circumstance. And I just think that's kind of the crux of a lot of what goes into like, I think how it devolves into how it impacts like your life and your physical body and your mental health. And so all that to say, I think that's where I have been for many years. You know, the surgeries, certainly, they were back to back, and it was like, full of hope right after. Like, you think you got it, you're finally with the right surgeon, you're finally like you have the right protocol, you have the right, post-op meds, that this is going to work. And then several weeks later, you get bad news again, and you're like, okay, what do I do now? And then because another thing I wanted to say is because we still don't have like a good understanding about Asherman's, none of your doctors like align. And this is another thing that came up in our call with my old girlfriend yesterday too, is she went and saw like she got 10 different second opinions, went to all these different doctors, and same thing. Like, she also got just all this competing information. And when you're stuck in that, like, I found for myself, the doctor and the protocol that felt the most aggressive and the most like active is the one I leaned towards. For better or worse, like, we will never know if doing that many surgeries was even going to potentially work or not. Like, if there was ever enough, like if there was ever a chance it would work. Since
I think
like
though, when you're
3 surgeries in, that would have been like, where other doctors would have called it.
I think that's really relatable though. And it makes me think about people who go through multiple rounds of IVF and eventually your protocol just becomes the kitchen sink, right? Because you get to the point where it's like, I've been conservative, I've played it safe, and now it's like, if it's not going to hurt me and it could potentially help me, like, let's just be as aggressive as possible and do as many rounds or as many procedures. It feels better to be as aggressive as you can be and to go with the most aggressive doctor or procedure when it hasn't been working for so long.
Yeah, that's true. And actually, if I look back at it, we did like we took the standard approach for the first couple of years. We did. Yeah. And at a certain point, you're right. Like, if it doesn't work, you have to, the definition of insanity, right? You can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. So you get more aggressive with it. Like, you can't not try.
Right.
Or I wasn't in a position mentally or all of the above to think outside of the box at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So all that to say, I think that's where I had been for so long. And when I was in that space, everything else takes a back seat. And I was reflecting on this a little bit, and if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you've heard me talk about this, where, the ups and downs of getting that type of news all the time, and then being thrown in and out of hormonal, like in a hormonal roller coaster with the estrogen and the progesterone. And we were doing estrogen and oil shots for a while, which is like pretty, a lot. And then withdrawing from those, and then gearing up to do another surgery. And then, you're on this roller coaster again, and it's hard. You can't like get off the roller coaster. That also is, for me, had like such an impact on my emotional resilience. Maybe also physical resilience, where I couldn't even like miss the gym. I couldn't even like miss being strong. It was more like I just was like deteriorating and just trying to survive. And like, if I had some off time, I would just go and rest. That was like all I could really think about doing. And I wasn't even thinking, rather, it was more like the only thing I could do was like rest.
Well, yeah, you're in survival mode. And I think when you're putting that much into something emotionally and physically, anytime you have a break, it's like coming home from college, like where you just get sick because finally your body's letting down. I mean, I don't know. For me, the only time that I really went to the gym and invested in my physical health in that way was like very early on, before I even really started IVF and I wasn't on hormones. And so when you're doing all of the things that you were doing, yeah, like it's kind of, I mean, I'm sure there are people out there that continue their gym routine. Maybe it's more of like a mental health thing, like they need it as like a way to release.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes total sense that if you're not required to be anywhere right now or to do anything right now, like, yeah, you're going to collapse on the couch and just like check out.
Yeah. And I want to say, like, Dr. Sasha talks about how important it is to stay active through infertility treatments. And it's really great for blood flow and like also mental health. I think we were similar, that in the early days that was easier to do. And I also felt better doing it,
Mm-hmm.
But as I got further and further into it, I think the physical and mental exhaustion is real. And also, I just had this realization too, like so much of my extra time every day was spent doing this other stuff. It was like on the phone with insurance or my doctor's office or trying to get a scan or going in for appointments or picking up medication, or it was like all of my extra bandwidth was also spent like coordinating my care too.
Yeah.
And we only have so many hours in the day, and we were both working full time. And there was times too, like I was reflecting on this too, where like I didn't even have the mental capacity to like cook myself like breakfast or make my lunch. Like I couldn't even see when I'm looking back on that, like I think I was like on the verge of some depression. Where like I wasn't even able to like manage my own needs that much either. Like I was so focused on this, like my care, and probably frankly overwhelmed by it, which is why I like dropped other things. That a lot of other people in my life had to pick up the slack, like our family, Nima. And I'm very grateful for that. And I think that it's really a community effort. But yeah, when we like all of that, that preamble is like, if it's not obvious, like I feel like I stopped taking care of myself, but I couldn't see that. And as I've taken this extended break, our last egg retrieval was in May, right?
That sounds right. Yeah.
And by then I was like, we were fully in the surrogacy journey of like matching with, we had matched with someone. We've matched with someone.
Yay.
By the way. And, gearing up to get her through all of her screening appointment, all of her prep and everything. I started to like feel lighter and just like, it was almost like instantaneous. It's hard to even explain, but it was such a long process to sort of get there, but it was, and frankly, it was a really long process to get there. In the beginning, I couldn't even like see surrogacy as an option, right? And then, I made this like, I had this my own sort of epiphany that this could be our story, could be a part of our story. And then I got more comfortable with that. And then it started to feel like a more natural progression for us and not so scary. Then it, took us a really, really long time to find someone. We'll get into all of that in another episode. We have a lot to talk about there. But once we found our surrogate, I also just started to feel calmer and like just such a sense of relief and like things like floating off of my plate and out of my, I don't know, making me feel a lot lighter, And I want to talk a lot more about that when we talk more about surrogacy, because I think there's a lot to unpack there. But the more space I've had from treatments, I'm starting to realize like I actually, okay, how do I want to say this? I think there's a lot here. The more space I've had, like the more I'm starting to like recognize what my body needs. And realizing that I've like been neglecting, even though I've been spending so much, this is crazy. I've been spending so much attention on my physical body, but not in like a nurturing way.
More in a like, get your act together. Yeah. What's wrong with you way.
Let's push you way, but not in like the, I want to I want to add 10 pounds to my weights kind of pushy way.
Not
It's
in a
like-
healthy, pushy way, and a like something's broken and
Yeah.
I want to, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that is very relatable for all of us, no matter what stage you're at. I think when your body's not doing what I don't even want to say what it should do because that brings up bigger questions.
Shame.
But what you want it to do or what you expect it to do, what is happening for other people so easily and not for you, it creates a new type of relationship with your body. And I think it's one that we don't really think about as we're like forging that new pathway, right? Of the way that we're like talking to our body or thinking about our body or being disappointed by it. So anyway, just wanted to add that in, but go on.
Yeah. It's a really good call out. It's like you're building these like neural pathways you are not even aware of, and I suspect that this is not, what I'm about to say is not like controversial. I think this would resonate with other women who are going through IVF and long journeys where you just simply have not given up. A lot of us have been sort of raised in, I think, in this culture that like you just try harder and you'll figure it out. Right? So if things aren't working out, it's because I just haven't tried hard enough yet, or like I can make this work if I work harder at it. And I think that might be more universal across folks who like go through some kind of medical diagnosis where you realize actually this is not in your control. I see that sort of perspective in other situations where with like other diagnoses or other physical or illness challenges that come up for people, like you start to ask like, well, why me? Like haven't I done everything right? Like how could this happen to me? And then the more you look at that, or the further away you get from it, even you start to realize like it has nothing to do with you. This is just so random. Like this is something you were born with, or this is something that you over time has afflicted you. And I think a lot about like my dad with like early onset Alzheimer's. There's nothing he could have done to prevent that. There's no working harder to get out of it either. You know what I mean? And I just think that's really tough. And I think also like maybe social media and like it's really amazing that we share a lot of this stuff, but you also end up seeing a lot of really positive stories then. And you're like, this will happen for me if I just try harder and if I just work harder and if I just push harder. And so after my last egg retrieval, now that we've found a surrogate who we love and we're feeling really incredible and hopeful about, and things are really positive in that place or there, I just started to feel like lighter. And suddenly, I don't even know how it happened. It was sort of like the skies parted and I was given a little bit of like boost or something. And I was like, maybe I should just go to the gym, and I started and I was so weak, Kayti, so weak. I like couldn't do a sit up. I couldn't do a push up.
Isn't it the worst when I hate the first week of workouts after
so weak.
Not working out for so long and you just feel like jello.
I was jello, yeah. But I have some pro tips on this now from my own experience. Take it or leave it. But I found going to a place that was high energy with coaches who were high energy and are very positive, good, and like loud music was helpful.
And dark. I like places that are, I don't know if your
Kayti
place
likes
is
to
dark,
work out in the dark.
but I don't like light or like bright fluorescent. Like I like mood lighting and I feel like that helps me. Also, shadows just look great in the mirror. You always look more like fit.
That's true. They do have like this place it's called Training Mate. It was founded by these Australian dudes, and their whole thing was that it was like a no toxic zone.
Cool.
But of course, they're like buff, sexy Aussie dudes.
Course. Yeah.
But I think in LA, their first place in LA was in West Hollywood. So it was a party. And I did go to that one when we used to live in West Hollywood, and it was fun. And I remembered, this was fun.
Yeah.
So there's one near me here, and I was like trying to figure out, I was trying to like go to the gym or like go work out with Nima. But everything for me was very stop and start. It was stop and start just in the same way fertility treatments were stop and start. It was like, oh, you have a break in treatments. Now you can like get back to working out. And like I'd go for like 2 weeks and then I'd fizzle out because something else would come up. Or like now I'd spent 3 hours on doing something or researching something or on a call or whatever. So then I just like, I miss a week. And then it was like, I couldn't possibly think about restarting, you know? There was just no momentum there. And I was still doing yoga here and there. And I tried to get to Pilates here and there. But I found, I'll be honest, and I love yoga and I love Pilates, but I'll be honest, neither of them really push me endurance-wise, or like I don't sweat a lot. And I think I don't feel as fulfilled at the end. Or I don't feel as like, you know what I mean? There's like the endorphin high isn't the same.
I think one of the reasons I'm so addicted to HIIT type training or high intensity classes, even if it's like, I don't really like cycling, but I like the vibe of cycling.
It's dark and it's loud.
It's dark and it's loud. And I think it's because I am someone who overthinks and is constantly like, my brain is just going all of the time. And when I'm in a yoga class or a Pilates class, it takes me a long time to finally get to the place where it's like, I'm relaxed here. I'm finally letting go. And those are good. But when I'm like in a class and they're like burpees, cleans, deadlifts, and like the music is blaring, and it takes me out of my head very, very quickly. And so I think that's why it feels so good for me. I don't know if it's the same for you, but it's like that release from my brain.
Yeah, I like that you said that because I think it's not something I've clocked really, but I think you're right. It's like I go in there, I have a complete break because you can't think about it because you're like dealing with, it's too fast and these are heavy weights and like I'm, you're still kind of learning and they're like 1 minute rounds. So you're moving very quickly. And you're right. Like, I think you're right that is why afterward I feel a bit more refreshed than like when I do yoga, and I love yoga, and I agree with you, it can take a while to get into like the mental space, and the thoughts do keep coming up, and then you sort of have to like be thoughtful about like, let them pass by, they're just clouds in the sky, and don't attach to any of them, just wave hello.
Like, wait, did I pay for my parking pass? Oh my gosh.
My gosh. Yeah. Am I going to get a ticket right now? No, let it float by.
Just let it go.
Just let it go. But that's how it is. And that's part of that's part of it as well, right? That is its own workout and its own mental health type of thing as well, which I also love. But you're so right. When you're in that room, you cannot think about anything else. And when you leave that room, it's a different sense of calm, and also a different high of endorphins too. And so I've been going to that, and I was finding that I'm very weak, but I liked the music and it was very positive. And I just kind of very quickly, actually, I want to back up. Like I kind of made this commitment to myself silently that I wanted to get strong and feel better physically and sort of reclaim my body for strength. When we matched with our surrogate, I was like, okay, if she's going to be carrying our baby, I want to be in good shape when the baby's here. And I think that's very loaded for me.
A quick break for our episode sponsor, Tempdrop. When I first started trying to get pregnant, I would manually track my basal body temperature, like with an actual oral thermometer. And I would have to set an alarm the exact same time every morning just to take my temperature before getting out of bed. Honestly, if I could go back, I would 100% use a wearable thermometer like Tempdrop, because it tracks your temperature for you, so you don't have to sacrifice sleep or stress when you forget a day of charting, which I definitely did more than once. I also love how the wearable syncs everything to the app and charts it automatically, so I can actually see patterns without having to do all the work myself. This would have been a dream when I was in the thick of infertility and already had a million appointments and supplements to remember. Listeners, don't make the same mistake I did. Try Tempdrop and use code AFFriedEggs for 10% off. We keep saying this, and I'm actually going to just like start a checklist right now on the podcast, because we keep saying these things, and I'm like, I want to write this down so we can actually revisit it in another episode. But I'm very curious to, because we want to have other surrogacy stories come on or talk to, we want to broaden this conversation. And I'm curious if that is something that other intended parents also experience of like when they match, when a surrogate does a transfer, like when a pregnancy is progressing, is there this sense of like needing or wanting to follow that journey somehow physically or have like, like I think of, I feel like we talked about this at one point, but like even, you know how they say like the joke is that like men gain weight when their wives are pregnant?
Yeah.
Because they are like, you know what I mean? And like,
oh my gosh, this is funny. Wait, this is so funny. Wait, what if, does like the intended mom gain the baby weight?
Yes, or that, or is it just like when you are in this thing together, there is I don't know, like you want to like come alongside and like train for something too, or like, like that energy.
And that's what I was sharing with you the other day was, and I should say that here because it's along the lines of what you're getting at. I was saying that like she's going to be growing this baby. She's going to be physically changing and I won't have that same physical like endurance experience, frankly.
Yeah.
Like, so that's on the one hand, I'm like, well, I'm not going to be gaining 30 pounds and like my body's not going to be learning how to live under additional weight, additional stress. Unless I do it to myself and I don't really want to gain 30 pounds, but I'd like to like be able to have a body that can like withstand more weight and more like movement and whatnot.
You want some sort of a challenge.
I want some sort of a challenge, but that was like, I want to physically be able to like move my baby around. And like, I think I was a little nervous about that. But what you're mentioning is I shared this with you a couple weeks ago was like, I wanted a physical challenge.
Yeah.
Like I always thought that I would be like a cute pregnant lady. I am sad to miss that physical transformation. I think it's really incredible that women can do this thing. It's remarkable that our bodies can change and you can grow a whole human and somehow your body is still your body afterward, although different. You can tell us all about that, Kayti. Very different, probably.
But you're right. It's very resilient and bounces back. And
it's resilient. That's exactly it. It was like, well, okay, the birthing person's body is so incredible. I think my body is also incredible in a different way, also resilient. But I like wanted to sort of like be along the challenge journey. You know what I mean? Like it was sort of like, okay, we're in this challenge together and I won't be carrying this baby, but maybe I can get to doing a pull-up. You know, maybe I can like, pull-up is really like my North Star.
Love it.
So I think it's multifaceted. It was like, it came from a place of like, I am so disconnected with my body and tired and like feeling weak. And then I didn't mention this, but also like feeling weak and in pain. Like I was starting to have lower back pain. My hip was really bothering me more and more. I started to have like sciatica pain just from like not being physically active enough.
Yeah.
Aside from like my walks with my dog. And I've started to also get nervous. Like, is that going to follow me then into this new season of life? Am I going to be a mom who's like constantly in pain? And like, I don't want that either. And that's really loaded too. We can talk more about that. But
it's almost like as your surrogate is entering this phase of, you know, going through all of the steps that they go through in order to reach transfer and then to go through transfer and all of that. Like, I'm almost curious too if there's an element of like you now need to go on a healing journey as you prepare for motherhood, like the same way that where I'm really curious to talk with other people who've experienced IVF pregnancies of like the healing journey from transfer to then being pregnant to then giving birth of like what is happening spiritually and emotionally there, if anything, right? Like I've also talked about how I feel like I checked out for most of it because I was just like living in PTSD of like, is this going to work out?
Yeah.
But But what kind of, like what 9-10 month journey are you going to be going on in Nima as well of like, because even if you're not carrying the baby physically, like you're still carrying that emotionally and spiritually and like processing all that you guys went through to get here and what the next season is going to look like. And so like it makes sense that you would want to find some sort of physical thing to match that or to help you like process those things as well.
Yeah, you're right. It's sort of like the gym or like the pull-up or like the strength training is a physical manifestation of what I'm trying to work through elsewhere. It's like I'm trying to sort of let go of this narrative. I just got very emotional. I'm trying to like let go of this narrative that I've had for myself for a long time, or like this like sort of demon on my shoulder who's like been reminding me that I cannot change this and I cannot outrun this and I can't outstrength this and I can't outthink this or all of those things. Like this is just my reality. It's like how do I put that version to bed and like sort of reclaim the other parts of me? It's funny. It's like so obvious now thinking about it. Like physical strength is just like to me, like maybe it's just a manifestation of mental strength. You know what I mean? And that's really simplifying it and boiling it down. And it might not actually make sense to anyone else, but I feel like that's probably what my brain is doing. You know what I mean? I feel like we're working this out in real time. Thanks for being my therapist.
No, thank you for sharing all of this. I mean, I think it makes total sense. And I think a lot of people will be able to relate or maybe even having their own epiphanies listening to this. And tell me if this resonates. It almost feels like going back to what you were talking about with, I love how you brought up how for so many of us, these might be bad comparisons. So if they are, forgive me. But like, okay, so I think about like the book writing process, right? Like what you were talking about with how you can just keep pushing. Like if my book keeps failing or I keep not being able to publish something, the response is I can either give up or I can just keep pushing and pushing and pushing until I finally get there. Like there's this mentality that if I work hard enough and I do this long enough, like if I have enough crazy in me, that eventually someday a publisher will say yes, right? It is not that way with anything physical in terms of diagnosis. Like what you were saying, when you're diagnosed with something or you're going through, when your body is not, when it's sick or it's not responding in a way that you want it to, like you cannot have that same mentality. This is not just like work harder and eventually the door will break down for you, which I think is really hard for a lot of us to come to terms with. You eventually have to get to that point where you realize like there's nothing that I can do here to change the outcome. And it almost feels like what you're going through right now is like your acceptance phase of the grief journey, where you've fought, what are all the steps? It's like you denial and anger and bargaining and and you've finally gotten to the point where it's like, we have this amazing surrogate. I've come to terms with like, this is how our story is going to be written, at least for this pregnancy and for this season. And now it's time for me to like enter that acceptance phase of like, my body didn't do this thing that I was hoping and wanting it to do, but like there's a different pathway here. And I'm coming to terms with like accepting, because there's also, I think, this element too of like, you're not, how do I say this? Like, it's still hard. You're still not carrying your own pregnancy, right? Like, it's not like you're just all of a sudden, this worked out for us and it's great and we have a surrogate and like, this is going to be our story now. Like, it's still a very complex thing that I'm sure you still are experiencing waves of grief over. But to enter this new chapter where it does almost feel like you're going through those motions and like you've come to like an acceptance point where it's like, maybe this isn't how I wanted it to be, but this is how it is. And like, what can I do with that now? And how can I, I don't know. Does any of that resonate?
Yes. Thank you. You just cleared up a lot of my internal monologue around this. I think you're right. And I don't think the stages of grief are linear. We've talked about that too. Right. And so you're right. Like there are still things that come in that I'm surprised by because I'm like, haven't I had enough time to get used to this? But I think we all know those stages are not linear. But you're right. There is. I feel like what you're saying is resonant and spot on, in that like I'm starting to like accept this new reality, and I'm trying to lean into where I feel empowered by it. You know what I mean? And so for me, I think one of my ethos that I've like sort of refined over a lot of time and over a lot of, frankly, pain in my life is you can only control what you can control. And I hope this doesn't, I might have to reframe this after I say it, but like I can't control all this other stuff. And I can't control my body either, right? Like we've learned that. But I can try to physically feel better. I can't control that like totally either. But I guess like not doing anything, I know that. I know what the outcome of that is going to be. And it's going to be this pain in my back continues. And this mental state of this woman, me, who's physically weak and tired all the time and physically overwhelmed will continue if I don't do something different. You know what I mean? So there's like also like a shift in productivity that has happened, which I'm trying to also like, now that I'm saying this out loud, I also don't want to like turn my body into another project either. But
yeah,
I will say like that might be a risk, but that's not how it feels at all.
It doesn't seem like it's like that.
No, call me out if it ever looks like that.
No, but, I mean, I saw Amy, was it like last week or 2 weeks ago? And like I think I even told you, Anthony mentioned it when we all hung out, that you just like seem lighter. Like it feels, it feels like you are lighter and that you're more, it does not feel like an unhealthy obsession with exercise. Like it feels like you're doing something for yourself that is like actually really good for you.
Yeah. And to be realistic, it's like 2 days a week. So
I know anyone that's not watching this video is like, should I tune in? Is Amy a bodybuilder now?
No, this is like Amy has gone 2 days a week consistently for like.
And now a break for our sponsor, Amy's new protein powder.
Yeah, right. I'm now. This is now a bodybuilding podcast. No, this is like, it's like, guys, but that's the bar we're talking about. I couldn't even do 2 days a week consistently.
Yeah.
I couldn't even do 1 day a week consistently. Like there were most weeks I was lucky to go on a walk, and it was like a hot girl walk, mental health pretty much only.
Yeah.
That's why I did it, but like, so 2 days a week, frankly, it has been life-changing, which is very surprising. And also we were talking about this the other day. We were like, damn it, why are they right?
I know.
Like everyone likes to say this is good for your mental health. And my husband included would be like, you'd feel a lot better if you just, why don't you go to the gym? Or like, why don't you go to a class that you like? And damn it, they're right. Like,
why don't you go to bed early? Why don't you stay hydrated? Why don't you eat protein? You'll actually feel better.
Blah, 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 blah. And then you're like, shoot, endorphins are
It actually works.
Yeah.
I have one more thing to say, and then we're going to take a break. And you're going to have to come back next week to hear the rest of this episode and conversation.
Yay.
But this reminded me of, I think it's Allie, so we had Allie Ramos on the podcast.
Yeah.
A while ago now. I think
last summer.
Her son just turned 1, I think.
I think it was last spring.
Yeah, it was a while ago. So Allie, who lives in Costa Rica, she had endo and went through IVF and did IVF abroad. So if you are curious about anything IVF abroad related, go back and listen to her episode. But she has been posting more of her postpartum fitness journey on Instagram. And I don't know if she's calling it that. So I don't want to it's very much not about physical appearance. And she does a lot of coaching with nutrition and health, specifically around inflammation, and has, I don't know what the actual degree is, but she's legit, has studied and knows her stuff when it comes to food and inflammation and all of these things. Anyway, she posted a reel or something, and I think it was her, that was essentially saying like, I'm either going to be in pain and not exercising, or I'm going to be in pain while exercising. Like my body is going to be inflamed and hurting regardless. I can either be doing that in the gym and like helping my body, even though it's still going to hurt, or I can just be on the couch and I'm still going to be hurting. And I thought that was really, that landed because I've been having a lot of pelvic pain, and my acupuncturist kind of gave me a stern talking to recently and was letting me know, like, if you don't get this under, I've started going to PT and as well. And like, if you don't start getting this under control and really investing in these exercises that are going to help with pelvic pain and strengthening your core muscles, and long term, like, it's not going to be good for you in terms of mobility and pain with aging. And so anyway, I think that's
one
just
way
like,
to light a fire.
Right. But I think that is like so what you were saying of like, I can either, do this through the hard or just like not do it through the hard
at all. Yeah.
Is really.
Yeah. And my like, one of the biggest things that I take, or like the most like impactful things I take with me too, is watching other women in my life crumble under pain, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that has like for a long time scared me. It scared me about getting older, having lost both my parents fairly young. Getting sick scares me. Alzheimer's scares me. Degenerative diseases scare me. Like, I come to a lot of this with a lot of fear that this is going to happen to me, and I'm going to be an old parent, not by choice, but like, that's my reality. And I don't want to be physically old. Just like, I want to challenge that. And that has been also part of my healing journey too, of like, what is the definition of what does a mom look like? What does a healthy, strong mom look like? And I have my own baggage watching my mom be in pain for most of her life, severe, severe pain, and how limiting that was for her physically, how challenging that was for her mentally. And I don't want that for my kid. And so that also flipped on of like, I'm putting it out there. We're going to have a baby next year. I'm like, this has to happen, not just has to, but I believe that it will happen. We are on the path. I don't want to be that version of a mother that I see, like, or that I know. Right. That's a different, let's talk about that at another time. But I think that's also just driving a lot of this is like, Amy, you have to do something different then. Because what you're doing right now by sitting on the couch and you're in pain literally with no movement and you're feeling low, it's like your acupuncturist giving you a stern talking to. I kind of felt myself giving me a stern talking to. This isn't going to go well for me. You know what I mean?
I have so much to say on this. Okay, come back next week.
Okay.
Because I want to continue this conversation because I have like so many just like ding, ding, dings that
write
went
it down.
Off.
You're making our checklist. I'm
making the checklist very long. Okay, so we are going to wrap for today, but come back next week for our final episode. Well, actually, will it come out next week, or are we going to have our guests in between? Come back in 3 weeks.
Just come back all the time because the guests are going to be amazing. If we haven't figured out our order of operations
I know
yet.
You all think that Amy and I don't have a plan, but actually this is our plan, is to keep you all on your toes, to just like act like we don't know what's happening, but really we do.
We know exactly what's happening. Yeah, don't sell us short. But come back. We're going to have at least one more episode with the two of us before our summer break. And then, yeah, okay.
And then we'll be back in the fall, and we have...
I feel like this was such a hard ending. Ugh, I feel weird about it. This is a hard
ending.
I don't like it. Okay.
Okay. Well, do you want to start over?
No.
The ending is we love you all and have a great week, and come back soon for more of this conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye.